You wake up to the smell of wood smoke and cold dawn air. You are crouched by a fire that has burned all night, and in your hands is a strip of meat, dark and tough and barely edible. You hold it over the flame. You don't know why this works. You only know that it does, that the fire changes the food, makes it soft, makes it sweet, makes it yours. You have no idea that the simple thing you're doing in this moment will reshape the skull of every human being who comes after you. For 99% of human history, the kitchen was a hole in the ground and a pile of glowing coals. There were no recipes, there were no names for what you were doing. There was only fire and food, and the slow discovery that the two of them together made you stronger than any animal alive. Today, the average person spends less than 40 minutes a day preparing food. Most of us will never light a cooking fire with our own hands. And yet that ancient act, heat applied to flesh and root, is arguably the single most important thing our species ever learned to do. So here's the question. Who was the first person to cook a meal, and could one fire, one ordinary evening, have actually changed the human brain forever? Let's start with what we know for certain. In 2009, a Harvard primatologist named Richard Wrangham published a book called Catching Fire. His argument was radical. Cooking, he said, not tools, not language, not hunting. Cooking is what made us human. When you cook food, you do part of your digestion outside your body. The heat breaks down the fibers and the proteins before you ever take a bite. Raw food is expensive to digest. Cooked food is cheap. And that difference, multiplied across millions of years, freed up something enormous. To understand what it freed up, you have to understand a strange biological trade. In 1995, two scientists, Leslie Aiello and Peter Wheeler, noticed something odd about the human body. Our brains are huge, 3 times larger than a chimpanzee's, and the brain is greedy. It burns roughly 1/5 of all the energy you use just sitting there, thinking. So where does that energy come from? Their answer became known as the expensive tissue hypothesis. Compared to other apes, humans have unusually small gut. Aiello and Wheeler argued that as our digestive system shrank, the energy it no longer needed was redirected to the brain. We traded gut for gray matter. And the thing that let us shrink the gut in the first place? Softer, richer, pre-digested food? Cooked food? Different lines of evidence, same conclusion. The fossils show it too. Around 2 million years ago, our ancestor Homo erectus appears with a bigger brain, a smaller jaw, smaller teeth, and a narrower ribcage built around a smaller gut. A body, in other words, that looks like it was already eating cooked food. Now, some of you are thinking, that's a nice theory, but where's the actual fire? Bones don't prove a campfire, fair question, and the answer comes out of the dirt. In 2012, a scientist named Berna published a study on a place called Wonderwerk Cave in South Africa. Deep inside that cave, about 30 meters from the entrance, far too deep for a wildfire or a lightning strike to reach, his team found microscopic ash from burned grass and bone, sitting in sediment 1 million years old, controlled fire. Inside a cave 1 million years ago. Move forward in time, and the picture sharpens. At a site in Israel called Gesher Benot Yaaqov, researchers led by Goren-Inbar found clusters of burned seeds, wood, and flint. The unmistakable footprint of ancient hearths, dated to around 790,000 years ago. Not random burning, hearths. The same spot used again and again. And in 2022, at that very same site, came the prize. A team studying the teeth of giant carp found that the bones had been heated, not burned to ash, but cooked at a low temperature, the way you'd cook a fish you actually intended to eat. It is, so far, the oldest confirmed meal in human history, roughly 780,000 years old. So picture the timeline. Fire, controlled and carried into a cave, 1 million years ago. A cooked fish eaten by a marsh nearly 800,000 years ago. And across all of it, slowly, generation by generation, the human skull swelling outward, the jaw pulling in, the gut shrinking, the brain climbing from around 400 cubic centimeters toward the nearly 1,500 you carry right now. We will never know their names. That is the part that haunts me. There was a first one. A first hand that held a first piece of food over a first deliberate flame and decided to wait. A real individual on a real night who did the thing that started all of this, and they are gone, completely unrecorded, dissolved into deep time. We owe them everything, and we cannot even thank them, which means you today, reading recipes, scrolling for restaurants, reheating leftovers at midnight, you are running on an upgrade that was installed before our species even existed. Every thought you've ever had was paid for, in part by a fire someone tended 1 million years ago. But the first cook never knew they were inventing the human mind. They just didn't want to eat it raw.